Okay, so what we're going to look at next is the content management panel. So this is the main section of the administration console. This is what you'll see if we go to our admin console, this middle section right here. So if I go back, I can walk you through some of the options and what you can do in that content management panel. So what we're going to look at here is some of these key items that you'll see. Please note that the data sources and views will be covered in the data admin training already, so we'll skip across these ones and work on from the user, the roles, the user groups section for you. So if we jump across, we can have a look at those items in more detail. So when you are setting up your Yellowfin environment, you'll have the ability to create your users. You'll also be able to set functional security on these users, and that is done by assigning the role. So anytime you create a new user, you'll be able to assign a role. Either that could be a default role that's in Yellowfin or one that you've personally set up. Then on top of that, you'll also be able to add users to user groups. So you can easily group up users for more easy distribution of content, or even assigning of security at content levels. So instead of distributing a report to a list of 35 people, you might assign it or send it to one group. So giving you a lot more flexibility to be able to manage larger number of users within your Yellowfin environment. So what we might do is show you just an example of what you might see when you do create a new user. So when you do create a new user, you'll see this particular box pop up. So you'll be able to add in the details of the actual user. So you'll be able to define things like their name, their email address. So the email address, as it says here, must be unique, because that can be used as an identifier for the user to log in. You can also, as you see here, allocate the user a role. So that will show all the roles that are currently set up within Yellowfin for you. You can also fill in some of the extra fields, so things like personal information, job titles, descriptions, and you can also set things like their default passwords. So when a user is logging on for the first time, they can use that, and then obviously they'll be prompted to change their password to a more secure personal item. So with the role permissions, what you'll see by default is that Yellowfin has 5 roles created for you. So these are based on some general types of users that we do see within the BI industry. So here you're looking at things like consumers, more content writers, maybe more public users, or maybe high level or power users, and then the system administrators as well. So Yellowfin comes bundled with a set of these roles with particular configurations for you that you can then use as a bit of inspiration, or you can create your own, or you can even go and change these as you need. Again, on top of that, you have the user groups. So this is a bit of a screenshot of what you would see when you're setting up a particular group in Yellowfin. So you'll easily be able to manage things like the users that you're assigning to this, and even assign things like security, and even default dashboards that a user will see when they actually log in for the first time. So what I might do is just jump across to my real environment just to show you those 3 steps and how they can be managed. So if I look at my users, I currently have 2 users set up. So I can easily go and add a new user, like you saw before, start adding in their particular details, their preferences, their regions. That can be set at the user level. What I can also do is edit the current users that I have. So I could easily click on my user and edit. I could email them, I could delete them, or I could very quickly change a role as well. So this user, I might want to be a guest user or a public content writer. So that gives you a quick little menu to change those. You can also do bulk imports of users. And that can be coming in from a particular text file. So you'll need a particular set of columns, and Yellowfin will bring that all in and batch process that to add in a set of users for you. So you have your users, and as you saw before, when you create a user, you can assign a role. So if we look a little bit more closely at the roles, we can see here that I have a number of roles set up. So we have the 5 roles that come with Yellowfin. I've also added a guest user here. But if we look at our roles, just to explain how they're set up, I might use my system administrator as an example. So if I look at my system admin, I've clicked on this. I've got some settings here for things like whether it's a mandatory role, which basically means there must be one user at all times in Yellowfin that has this role. And that means that you always have an admin, so you can always be able to maybe delete content or change users. You won't ever get locked out in that way. You can also define default roles for new users that are coming into Yellowfin, or even guest roles if you're looking at allowing a particular user to view content from outside of Yellowfin. But the main part of your role-based security is some of these sub-tabs at the bottom. So here it's kept very simple. All you need to do is tick or untick for that functional level of security. So if I don't want this user to be able to export reports, I could just tick and untick that. Even when I'm looking at content-related functionality, it can then be a create, read, update, delete set of configurations. So I could say this user can read reports, but they can't read, update, or delete. So that's very easy and very configurable. And I think there is over 95 different options for configurations there for you. So that's when you're looking at creating your roles. As I mentioned before, you can easily copy a role and then create or configure it in your own way. So there's definitely some options there for you. The last item I was showing was the user groups, so I might explain that in a little bit more detail. So at the moment I just have an administrator group. What I can do is I have a few options here. Firstly, I can make this group secure, and that means that anyone who wants to edit this group has to be part of the group. So therefore external people can't change groups where they're not allowed to. As I mentioned before, you can also define tabs. So any user who gets created and gets assigned this group, when they first log in, they will automatically see this particular set of dashboards, and they'll be assigned in that way. And what you can do in terms of the makeup of this group, again, that's very simple. I could go then and search and add. So this could be a number of things. So it could be looking for users within Yellowfin. I could add roles to a group. I could even add groups within a group. And if I was looking at using an LDAP or Active Directory connection, I would be able to map groups from those directories across into Yellowfin to use them to apply security. So what I can do is easily add users. So I might add my user 1 and say they're included in this group or even excluded from this group. So very easy to manipulate, set up and maintain your groups within Yellowfin, and use them then to apply content level security. So security access to view reports, to edit views, to update a dashboard, that kind of security there.